guys, and welcome to our first lesson on the Paris Basin, our core European region. Now, regional geography is examined in questions number 4, 5 and 6 on your Leaving Cert exam. So I'm going to get you to grab your regional geography books and jump over as far as page 216. Page 216 is going to look like this. So you're going to jump over as far as here, and we're going to get started by examining what can be asked under the topic of the Paris Basin and what's quite likely for your Leaving Cert exam. So let's get started. Guys, in this case here, first things first. The first thing we need to remember is that the Paris Basin is examined in questions number 4, 5 and 6 on my Leaving Cert exam. Now, with questions number 4, 5 and 6, each have the same structure as we've seen in physical geography. They have a part A, a part B and a part C. Your part A is worth 20 marks and allocated 5 to 7 minutes of your time. Your part B and your part C is worth 30 marks and allocated 15 minutes of your time. Your part B and part C, they're worth, as I said, 30 marks, and they require 15 significant relevant points at 2 marks each. Now, the Paris Basin specifically is your core European region. And just like we've seen when we looked at our Irish region, we focused in on the Greater Dublin area. With our European regions, we're going to focus in on the Paris Basin. Now, that doesn't mean that our peripheral regions, like with our Irish region, the Western region, or our European region, the Mezzogiorno, that we need to know nothing about them. We do. However, we're going to focus in on the Paris Basin as our main. And when we're asked, for example, to compare and contrast the likes of agriculture, we're going to learn that for the Mezzogiorno. I'll guide you step by step through that. Now, with the Paris Basin, obviously, just like your Irish region, there's a list of what we need to know, what's been asked in the past and what potentially will be asked in the future. The first thing on our list is our sketch map. Now, your sketch map here is your part A. And what you're going to find is that every single year, on question number 4A, a sketch map, a label sketch map, has been asked for 20 marks. That could be your sketch map of your Irish region, your European, your continental or subcontinental region, or once we've seen the concepts of region sketch map being asked. Some students will avoid this, however, guys, please make sure you practice this. That's worth 20 marks and allocated 5 to 7 minutes of your time. Now, when did this last appear? This last appeared in 2023. We've seen it in 2023, also in 2019, and in 2015. Every single time appearing as question number 4A. Now, we obviously learned this for our part A's. However, we have to remember that we can then use that sketch map, that labeled sketch map, in our essay questions for the Paris Basin. It'll only be worth 2 marks there, but again, if we don't use it for our part A, we can make sure that we use it in our essay questions. Next, what we have is our physical characteristics. My physical characteristics has never appeared as a standalone essay. However, what you're going to find with the Paris Basin, your European region, is that when the examiner asks something potentially like agriculture, they'll ask you to discuss it under 2 factors. So we need to learn these physical characteristics first, and then we need to work a little bit backwards and blend them into the likes of agriculture essays. Physical characteristics that we need to learn here, what are they going to be? My physical characteristics are going to be climate, relief. They're the most important 2, okay? So place a star beside those. But we'll also have a quick look at drainage and also soils. Soils in particular can be linked to the relief. Upland and lowland areas, what soils are covered there. Next, we see our primary economic activity. Now, our primary economic activity is agriculture. What you'll find is, generally speaking, in your more recent papers, basically since about 2010, the examiner asks you to focus in on one primary economic activity rather than saying the word economic activities. Back in the 2008 and 2009 papers, you will see they said activities rather than activity. So when you see primary economic activity, that is agriculture. Now, how and where have we seen this appear? Now, we've seen agriculture appear, being asked with factors back in 2021, and before that 2012. You might look at that and go, Tracy, that's an insane gap where you've been asked agriculture in the Paris Basin. Again, not specifically the Paris Basin, but one European region. What you're going to find is that I want to jot this over to one side. I'm going to put a plus, is that it did also appear in 2024 and in 2018 and in 2016 and in 2014. However, for each of those years, what you were asked to do was C plus C, compare and contrast. Compare and contrast agriculture in European regions, two contrasting European regions. Again, when I say the word contrasting, I mean core and peripheral. Our two European regions will be number one, the Paris Basin for our first 8 significant relevant points, and our second 7 significant relevant points on our peripheral region, the Mezzogiorno. Now, when I spoke here about agriculture just in one, the examiner sometimes gives us our factors. They did in 2021. They gave us a list of factors. Climate and relief were included there. In 2024, when you were asked to compare and contrast your two contrasting European regions for agriculture, you were asked under the headings of climate and relief. In 2018, I'm going to put a little C under this, plus or for climate and relief. In 2018 and in 2016, you were asked to compare and contrast them under the topic of climate. Again, we're talking about agriculture here. And back in 2014, you were asked to compare and contrast with reference to relief. So again, that's why we're looking at our climate and our relief. And again, some students like to skip over that, but I like to make sure people have that solid. Because again, once you can then link them up to that agriculture, it's a really easy essay. Next is the one that a lot of students don't like. And this is secondary economic activity. Now, secondary economic activity, you'll often see the word manufacturing. Manufacturing or the manufacturing industry. Now, again, what is manufacturing? It's taking some sort of raw material and producing it in a finished good. Again, the examiner will give you factors, but they kind of vary. They can vary from labour force, market, etc., etc. Similar, again, to what you've seen with your Irish region. Now, the last time that we've seen this appear was in 2023. A lot of students struggle with this essay, but we also did see it in 2020 as well. Next on our list is tertiary economic activity. Now, for tertiary economic activity, our main focus is going to be tourism. But we will also have a look at transport. And I will come back to this a little bit later on. It was asked once to compare and contrast transportation in your European regions. We'll come back to that. Now, in relation to tertiary economic activity, tourism. You generally write tourism under the headings of accessibility and attractions. Again, they'll ask for factors. We'll come back to that when we get to the essays. We've seen this in 2022. We've also seen it in 2017. And we, again, see it quite frequently there. We see it a lot more frequently than we see tertiary economic activity being asked in our Irish regions. Next is my human processes. Now, my human processes in this case here is my distribution and density. Now, when I say distribution and density, in case you don't understand that, I'm referring to population distribution and density. The distribution is the spread of people throughout an area, and the density is the average number of people per kilometre squared. Now, just like we did with our Irish region, I'm going to ask you to bracket that off, and I'm going to ask you to write about that with the Mezzogiorno. The reason I always like to answer that question with your peripheral region is there's a vast variation or difference in the spread and the density. What you'll find is them urban areas, the like of Naples or Bari, when we look at the Mezzogiorno, have high population densities. And then you'll find your upland areas, and again, 85% of the Mezzogiorno is upland, hilly, mountainousy is how it's described. You're going to find is a very low. It's easy to discuss because it's very obvious that a lot of people will not want to live in the likes of upland areas because of poor transportation links, generally poor, thin, infertile soils, difficult accessibility, difficult to construct, going to be windier, going to have more harsh weather conditions, less access to services. It's a nice, easy essay. And again, the factors are going to cross over to what you've seen with the Western region. Last one here is my urban centre. And as you'll already know, your urban centre is Paris City. Now, we've seen this urban centre be asked in 2021, and before that it was 2012. You'll actually see that it was the exact same year as we've seen agriculture in one European region. Now, guys, that is your list of topics, okay, that we need to know here. And again, we're ticking them off one by one by one. Again, your European region, you focus in on one and you learn it really, really well. And the other one is for compare and contrast and human processes only, okay? Now, guys, in our next lesson, what we're going to be looking at is our sketch map. Our sketch map, we're 20 marks and allocated 5 to 7 minutes of our time.